Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to the first of its kind, at least for us, officials meeting for our WPYSL. We're glad you could make it. What we're hoping to do today is touch on a couple things and why we're going to have this meeting. Let's just start here. So we'd like to do an annual meeting and maybe more frequently on sharing new rules and policies, talking about existing rules if there are any changes, also discussing really any sort of officiating issue that you may have. Of course, looking at new ideas and improving ways to communicate. We actually, I got this idea from a WPIL meeting that we had to go to. Every WPIL team, that's the high school teams in our area, in case you're not aware of that, those WPIL people require that coaches and officials attend an annual meeting to review any rule changes. And gosh, we think that's a really good idea. Of course, our geographic footprint is pretty large. So with such a large geographic footprint, we're going to sort of try to use technology to make it simpler. By the way, just on the ground rules, please feel free to open up your microphone if you have something to add. By all means, please do so. I'd be happy to have that. So let's look at what the agenda is. Here's the agenda for our meeting. We'll do a quick introduction, which of course is underway now. We're going to talk about the league recommendation for sharing officials, which is new this year. We're going to talk about YMCA requirements for the minimum number of officials that needed to run a legitimate dual meet that counts toward districts and national times. Talk about the new rule changes. There's really only one rule change. And there's a couple other rule interpretations we'll go over. We're going to do the starting protocols for everybody. I'm sure you're all doing those, but just in case, I've heard rumor through the grapevine that some teams have been skipping that, and that's not something that we should be doing. We're going to also share some links to the new videos for stroke, which we think you should be looking at, sharing with your coaches, sharing with your teams. They're great stroke videos on the US site. And then at the end, I'd like to talk with everybody about maybe a way we can come up with maybe a social media way so that we can stay more in tune and in contact with each other. So it is a YMCA meeting, so we'd like to start with YMCA stuff. So what makes YMCA special, and in particular YMCA swimming? Remember our mission. The mission of the YMCA is to put Christian principles into practice through programs that build healthy spirit, mind, body for all. What we like to think when you are officiating, you're going to be looking through a prism that keeps our core values at the forefront at all times. So remember those. Even though they're hard to find on the website and maybe not as out in the front as we'd like them to be, we still think they should be. They're caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Everything we do as a YMCA volunteer in YMCA swimming, we need to keep those four core values in mind. As most of you know, that's why my wife and I stay involved with YMCA swimming after being so far out of this with our kids last being in it in 2011. We love the core values and we try to use those to the advantage of the kids and everybody else. Remember, our core values unite us as a movement with a common cause to strengthen communities. These are shared beliefs and essential principles that guide our behavior. Get that, officials, that's our behavior, interactions with each other, and even our decision making. So think about that all the time. That's what makes us special. Everything else in swimming all around us really doesn't touch on that. So I like the special part of it. I hope you do too. So let's talk about, we'll get right into the meat of the program today. As a league, we decided our most recent league meeting that we want to share official responsibilities during meets. So we're going to make a recommendation that all visiting teams offer help with officials at dual meets. So what is that? Well, we want to do as many officials from the visitors as possible to make sure that we're meeting the minimum requirements to run dual meets. Remember, one of the issues that we have is that there are rules and regulations that require a certain number of officials for meets. So using the sharing of the officiating duties really will solve that problem. We're also going to reduce the volunteer burden on the home team. We're going to try to build relationships with other officials. And there's other advantages that you can think of and throw in. We don't have a penalty system thrown in yet on this. We haven't quite figured that out. We shouldn't have to. Remember the core values. So caring's in the middle of that, and responsibility. You know, providing officials is something we should just be doing. So we don't think we should have to. We shouldn't really have to do any sort of punitive work with teams that don't do it. There's no strict guidelines yet on what you should provide. So we'll get into the more details on that, but there's nothing that says you should provide a starter or a referee or a stroke and turn. The bottom line is we just want you to provide people to make sure we can have the best meet we can for the kids. That's what we're here for. So please consider providing those. So here's a little action plan. It sounds really sort of commonsensical. Communicate with the host team. So before you have a dual meet, reach out to the host team. What do they need? Do they need any officials? If so, how can we provide them? Check with your own team and make sure that you have people available, and when are they available? We just did this for our first away meet. We're going to be helping out at our first away meet, and we have a few officials that are going to be at the meet and happy to go. So fill in whatever spots you can. Consider all the positions. So I'd like to think that you could provide stroke and turn starters if you have them, referees if you have them, even scoring table AO people. There's a shortage of those. So really any position goes. The other thing to just throw in here is ask about shadowing opportunities. We do have a lot of new level 1 and new level 2 officials. Remember, everybody needs experience to become a good official. So if you can, please check with your visiting or your team that you're going to be going to visit, I guess, and check and see if they have available opportunities for shadowing. Shadowing is a very, very important part of what we're trying to do in YMCA swimming. So we want to make sure everybody has a chance to see what's going on during the meets. Of course, everybody knows we want you to work as many meets as you can too. Any questions about that rule or recommendation, I guess? Okay, let's move on then. So how many officials are required at the meet? This is sort of something that we've struggled with over the last several years because of a shortage of officials. This comes out of a document that the YMCA USA provides. So a closed competition dual meet must have 3 certified officials, including a YMCA level 2 that acts as the meet referee. At least 2 additional certified officials, one of whom is a YMCA certified official. So that means the other one can be a US certified. You also need to have an AO. This is a tough thing. This is why we added the AO classes a couple years ago. Administrative officials are required. In the scenario where you're looking at the minimum, the referee and the starter also serve as stroke and turn, and they are also finish and relay takeoff judges. So one key to note, the AO cannot serve as a deck official. So pay attention to that. Do not have the AO be a deck official. By the way, you can have a level 2 official be the AO, but when they do that, they are the dry official. They are not supposed to be working in any other role. Any questions about that? One other note about the AO, that person can be the computer operator. So really it makes the most sense to do that. So your AO is also going to be your computer operator.
Tom, in one section it said if you go back to your prior slide.
Yes, sir.
It says they can't be the timing console operator, but they can be the computer operator?
Yes, that's correct. So that sounds funny, doesn't it? But that's what the league recommendation is. Excuse me, that's the YUSA recommendation, not the league. So
okay.
Really, I don't know why there's a distinction. I guess the distinction is that the person who's running the computer has to do all the cleanup work. Really, the console operator, in most cases, is just feeding the data. So I believe that's why they make that recommendation. Remember, the above represents the absolute minimum. use your visiting team to help. Okay, that's why we put this thing into effect anyway. So here comes the big part in yellow. Unless those roles are filled, we cannot serve. This is not going to be a qualifying meet. So that's the hard part. If you can't have those officials, then the times that are achieved at the meet do not count for districts or nationals. So that's pretty serious, but those are the rules. Now, what I would recommend, if you're a team and you're struggling with getting officials for a meet, please reach out to me or reach out to the league, and we will try to have other members of our team or our other officials come and help you. Again, back to the core values, we really want to be as helpful as we can and take responsibility for trying to help everybody. So if you run into a situation where you don't have enough officials and you know that, let us know and we'll try to see if we can't feed some officials to you. It's a tall order, but we'll try to help as best we can. Any comments on that before we move on?
I guess, are there any AO official classes anywhere coming up, or should I look on the YMCA site and look for the schedule for those?
We just did one last Sunday, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for those that went to it. So a couple of the people that went to it are actually on the call right now. So I don't have any scheduled right now. We are certainly open to having them. So just in case you didn't realize, I'm an officials trainer, as is Art Bassick. Between Art and I, we can try to get as many classes handled as we can. The AO class is a 4-hour class, so it's hard to do in the evenings. But if you want to reach out to me offline, we'll definitely try to figure out a way to get a class for you.
Okay. Yeah, we have a number of level 2s, but we don't have any strictly trained AOs.
I understand. Yeah, and you don't really want to waste your level 2 as somebody who's got a really dry side. Yeah, but if you have to, that's something that you just have to do.
Okay.
Any other comments on that before we move on? Thanks for your input, by the way. Okay, new rules. There's not really any new rules this year, which is, I think, good. It keeps it pretty simple. There is one new rule on timing system malfunctions, and we'll get right, I guess, into the meat of it. It's sort of a confusing rule, to be honest with you. But what they've done is they've made this rule change supposedly to help everybody who's at the dry side make a better decision about what the official time is. So according to the edict that came down from USA, it supposedly eliminates the need for complicated calculations by the AO. Really what it's trying to say is that we're going to do our timing system adjustments the way that FINA does it. And we do have a document that's come out from Y National that's supposed to help us with this, but there is a new rule here. And it's related to 102.24 4A and 4B. Really what's supposed to happen here is we're going to do what we always do. We're going to make sure, though, that the primary time is valid. So they're asking us to do a little bit of extra work to prove that the primary time is valid. If the primary time is invalid, then we go into backup procedures, and they're going to give us a lot of leeway to figure out what the most valid way to provide the official time is. If you just went through the AO class or level 2 recently, we went into some detail with that. But you're going to double check and see what backup time is the most valid. And you're going to use 3 sources for that information: place judges, buttons, and watches. So the newest thing that we're trying to do from the Y National here is you want to make sure you have place judges. And the AO is going to use the place judge information as well as the watches and the buttons to confirm what the most correct time is for the swimmer. So the new emphasis after all this rigmarole is really that you need to have place judges. So the quick solve for the place judges is to make sure that your starter and referee record places for every heat. That's a quick solve. If you are a big team and you have a lot of officials, then we recommend actually planting some place judges on the deck. It's a great way for them to get deck experience. And then you'll have the data that your AO needs to try to figure out what the official time is if you have a time failure. So as I said, we'll go into that just a wee bit more detail, but we're supposed to investigate and prove that the pad time is correct. So the easy part, the heat malfunctions, if you have a full heat malfunction, nothing's changed. That's still done the way it always was. This is just for a lane malfunction. So remember on the lane malfunctions, if the pad time is correct, that's all you need. Automatic timing system is official for time and place as long as there's no error on the automatic timing system. Again, we talk about the evidence here. This is what's really new. We're going to throw in the order of finish to help determine what the appropriate backup time to use is when you have an error. Any questions about that rule? Don't worry, there's tons of questions about it, I know. Your AOs are going to be all over it, though. They'll be happy. They'll figure it out. And I think the biggest thing to walk away from it is this use of the place judges to help you confirm that the time is valid. That's really the most major change. Okay, let's talk about a couple other stroke things. These are not rule changes, but I did want to bring to your attention, if you haven't done the class in a while, this might be something that's new to you. We did make a change a couple years back on the breaststroke start and turn. The downward dolphin kick sort of caused a confusion because we didn't really know when it was supposed to happen during the start and the turn. What we did is we clarified the rule to say that after the start and each turn at any time prior to the first breaststroke kick, a single butterfly kick is permitted. So bottom line, makes it easier to officiate, makes it easier for the kids because there's no restriction on when that kick happens as long as it happens before the first breaststroke kick. So watch for that. Also the Lochte rule, if some of you have heard about this, Ryan Lochte swam at a meet and during the freestyle leg, I believe it's on the IM, during the freestyle leg, he swam on his back all the way to the 15-meter mark, and that caused a great deal of excitement. That was before he was beating up bathrooms in South America, and so the U.S. people came out with a clarification, which really is just a restatement of the rule, which is that you can't repeat another stroke, whether that's in the IM or in the medley. Freestyle is defined as any stroke not previously mentioned. So you can look that up in the rule book 10152. Yes, sir.
So the Lochte rule is not that you should act like you got robbed at a gas station?
No, you shouldn't be an idiot. Yeah.
Okay, just clarify.
Yeah, so really all it means is that the fourth stroke has to be any other stroke not previously mentioned. Again, this is not a change in the rule. It was just a clarified interpretation. Going back to that one for a second, you know, to be honest with you, you could make an argument that he wasn't swimming backstroke, you know, just because he was swimming on his back. So it was a little bit controversial, so they came down with their decision and we have to follow it. Any questions about those two rule changes?
Yeah, Tom, this on the breaststroke pullout, is that saying that they can complete their underwater pullout, do a dolphin kick, and then the breaststroke kick?
Yes, and the breaststroke kick is the one that brings them to the top, right?
Yes, correct. I didn't think you could put the two kicks beside each other, though. I thought you could do it during the pullout or at the beginning of the pullout, but not at the end of the pullout where you kick and then you do a breaststroke kick right after that. But that is legal.
Yeah, so let's pull up that rule if we can, please. Let's see. Can you see that all right?
I can bring it up, yeah.
Yeah. During the kick, here you go. After starting each turn at any time prior to the first breaststroke kick, a single butterfly kick is permitted. So that's how they call it out. Following which all, yep. So that's the rule as it comes straight out.
Very good. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tom,
Yes, sir.
on the lofty kick, on the lofty rule,
Yes.
what's to stop a swimmer, or is it even not legal, to do a dolphin kick facing the breast?
That's there. Yeah, isn't that interesting? That creates the question, doesn't it? You know, so if I do a dolphin kick, or am I doing fly? You know, and I think that's why this was a little bit of a controversial decision. So if you're doing a dolphin kick on your stomach, does that mean you're repeating the fly? Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope. Could you do a breaststroke kick, for example? You know, maybe somebody decides that they have such a great breaststroke kick that they're freestyle, they do breast kick the whole time. You know, I think it's kind of rough. Like I said, I think his interpretation was pretty good, because I wouldn't say that he was swimming backstroke, but anyway, that's the rule that's been interpreted.
On his back, it's a DQ, and if he's on his breast, it's okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, so far. One other little thing, and these are little documents that come out from the USA Swimming, so we're going to show you a link to that in a few seconds here. But one other thing just to note, there's a new body tape interpretation. That is a 2016 change. What they've done is well, I kind of like this part. Any kind of tape on the body is not permitted unless approved by the referee. Here's something funny. Common sense should prevail. So that's kind of good. Really what it gets down to, they've talked about the tape and what the swimmers can have on their body. One of the ones that's sort of interesting is that they are allowed to have it on their fingers or toes as long as it's 2 or less. They've talked about what sort of tape is, as you're reading this screen, lots of things that they can do, which I think is good. Here's the one that they can't do. So they cannot use elastic therapeutic tape. They cannot use kinesio tape. And I think that's the one that you start to see athletes using, is the kinesio tape. So in swimming, we're not going to allow that. Or any other tape with intention to provide compression or support to muscles, ligaments, tendons. So that's the clarification on that tape stuff. They do go into, going back a slide here, they do go into even advanced notification of the referee is recommended. So they talk about that a lot. I think the bottom line is that if you have some swimmers that are going to use tape, they should definitely talk to the referee first. So make sure they make contact with the referee. And my take of this is they can pretty much put anything up except for the 3 things that are listed here. So those are your not permitted. Any comments or questions on those? Okay, let's review the starting protocol. Again, I think most everybody's doing this, but I want to make sure that it's league-wide. This is a national situation, also states, districts. We don't really want the kids to be showing up at districts and states, and when the referee blows the whistles and doesn't say stand up, that they look at him in bewilderment. That's not something that we like to see. So we do need to use the whistle protocol, or the starting protocol. Remember, that's at least 4 whistles from the referee when the last swimmer in the water, in the heat that's in the water, passes under the backstroke flags. So as soon as that happens, you're going to hear the chirps, and that's an indication to the kids on the block that they need to get ready to swim. Referee sounds 1 long whistle blast to step the swimmers up. Now we like to recommend that happens as soon as the last swimmer touches the wall. Remember, our dual meets are pretty long. You want to keep things rolling. The best way to keep them rolling as a referee is to make sure you have pace. That pace comes from the whistles. So make sure that you do the whistles when the kid's last nose goes under that flag, and then when the last swimmer touches the wall, 1 long whistle brings them up. Remember, that's not a step-up command. Also, what we do in our meets, I'm sure most of you do, after the 4 or 5 whistles, you can go ahead and announce the next heat or the next event. So have your starter announce the next heat or event right after those 4 chirps. What that will do is that will allow the kids a very quick start on the next heat. So save some time. You want to announce that event, have at it, but do it at the chirps instead of waiting for all the swimmers to be standing on the blocks. Also remember that we do add an extra whistle for backstroke. So the one long whistle brings the backstrokers into the water, and the second whistle brings them with their feet to the walls. Now you may say place your feet. That's an option in the rule book, but if I were your starter, I would hold your voice, save your voice. Don't even say place your feet. They'll get to know what that means. So then after that's all done and everybody's ready to go, you're going to see the referee put their hand out, which is an indicator that we're ready to rock and roll. That's an indicator also that the starter is in control. So and then the final indicator that we don't give a lot of thought to is that once the referee's hand goes out, the heat is closed. So swimmers stepping up into the starting blocks or entering the water after the signal may not be permitted to swim. So kids should be pretty careful about this, because there might be some meets where the referee, if they don't get in there by the time the hand goes out, they might have some trouble. Now I think, again, you use common sense. We want the kids to be able to swim. I'd let them get in. I'd make a face at them, but I'd let them get in. Remember then, the starter's command is take your mark, and then the starter knows what to do. Any questions on the starting protocols? Again, my reminder to everybody is if you're trying to keep your pace of your meet running, I was just talking with Lauren, and he said they have over 200 kids next week. We have 130 on our team, so most of our events are pretty much invitationals. They're big events, so we definitely do everything we can to keep rolling by having the referee get the whistles at a good pace. That will get the kids ready to understand and ready to swim. They very, very quickly understand the pace of the meet. If you drag your feet, the kids will drag their feet. If you keep it rolling, they'll roll. They understand it. So if you're doing if you're doing flyover starts, don't be afraid to have those kids standing above them pretty quickly. If you're not doing flyover starts, definitely have them standing over top of the kids. So have the kids on the block while the kids are still in the water. They'll get it. They'll get out fast, and the meet will move pretty quickly. Any comments on the starting protocols? Okay, just put my swim official trainer hat on for a second. There's a link on your screen, and forgive me, I don't think that's a live link for you guys, but there's some new stroke videos on the USA Swimming website, and I want to just bring your attention to the USA Swimming website. Also, there's a rules and regulations link. If you go to USA Swimming site, you will see member resources, and under member resources, go to officials, and there's all sorts of information in here that's very helpful for everybody that's officials. So I highly recommend that. Very important that you look at these videos. They're fabulous. They're much, much better than the ones that we had in previous times. Very, very good reference for everybody. And in fact, we recommend even using them for your coaches if you can. So coaches should be taking advantage of this as well. Really strong set of videos, good list of rules, and a great way for everybody to see them. If you take our officials classes, we give these to all officials. We give them that link, and we try to get them to review those on a regular basis. So stroke videos are huge. And then again, we want you to stay up to date with all the rules interpretations. Again, on the US site, under the rules and regulations piece, there's all sorts of information that you should be looking at on a very regular basis, because the rules do change, and they do have interpretations like that Lochte rule, like the breaststroke rule. Interpretations do come out, and they come out pretty regularly. So, you don't have to be looking at this all the time, but I would say maybe once a quarter, take a glance here at this part of their website, and you'll see lots of information that you'll find very helpful as an official. And again, one of our jobs as officials is to make sure we know the rules. You do the best you can, and part of doing the best you can is knowing all of the rules. Any questions on those? Okay.
Hey, Tom,
Yep.
I am a USA Swim official out of Cleveland, and we have a meeting once a year that's mandatory.
Mm.
And go over this kind of like we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see us in this western part of Pennsylvania make it mandatory for the officials and actually do a full session, because the coaches, I just had a meet yesterday, the coaches weren't sure on the starting block what is considered a false start. And I had to give a couple of the coaches the interpretation of what a false start is. But there's a lot of officials that don't make the calls that they should be making. And I truly believe, because of what I've done with Cleveland and the USA Swimming, if the officials are there in a pool situation to show them what the infractions are and make it mandatory for these people to show up once a year,
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll be better off as a group altogether. Not that I want to be at another meeting, because I really don't want to. I think it would be better for everyone if we do this.
Yeah, and I think this is this meeting is a step in the right direction, heading that way. You know, we're yet to take baby steps, and this is really a baby step to sort of go in that direction. Well, just one clarification too, just so you know, the YUSA, when they're talking about training our officials, they prefer that our officials look at the videos rather than doing in water, and that's also pretty controversial. But their theory is that the in water is hard to create, and I think I'm in your camp. You know, one of the things I wanted to do when I became a swim official trainer was I wanted to turn it on its head and do stuff like what you're talking about, where we'd have the kids in the pool demonstrating. But Y National feels that the videos are really a strong way to do that, and so again, I think that's a really good idea. I like the idea, and in many ways, but I think that in the baby step belief here, we probably, if we could just get everybody to watch the videos, even the coaches, that would be a really big help. And by the way, it's not really the coach's fault. They have their hands full. They have a lot to do. So I understand it. It's hard for them to keep up with the rules. But these new video resources are really quite helpful. And there's also one, by the way, and back to your point from your meet yesterday, here's one on the starting philosophy and protocol. So that is a video that we're asking all of our level 2 people to take a look at as well. It's about a half hour long, so we don't watch it at the classes yet, but it's a pretty good video about clarifying the start. So good idea.
Guys,
maybe this time next year we'll do one that's mandatory. I think your suggestion is headed in the right direction. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Tom, I use GoToMeeting all the time and Skype meetings all the time for work, so this is old hat for me, just using the technology. But as far as what you're saying, to actually have a meeting like this and play the videos, it's one thing to watch the videos on your own, and that is a good resource, but to have a meeting like this, play the videos, and then take questions from newer officials, that would help.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'm a level 1 official. I've been so for about a year now. We had somebody at our meet who had just taken the course in the past 2 weeks, and it was her very first meet to be and she was a turn official. Mm-hmm. And she did the same thing. She went on, watched the videos before the meet, as well as in the class. So, but but having somebody to ask questions to live helps dramatically.
Yeah, and I think where in full agreement, we are hoping that all of our officials are getting a chance to be on the deck with another official. And I realize there's some scariness to that because maybe that other official, you don't want to have the blind leading the blind. But assuming you have a good person to teach, we really request that people shadow before they're on their own. Now, I realize we're doing the best we can. And if we don't have time to shadow, we don't have time to shadow. But I think you're right. The videos are helpful. There's nothing to substitute seeing it live and really seeing it during a meet is amazing. So it's not an easy task, especially when you're a turn judge and you're looking at the backstrokes and the breaststrokes. Those are sort of tough. I just do want to, since I'm on this screen, I'm just showing you here at the official video resources. Here's the playlist, and you can see each of the official videos that comes flying up here on the USA site. So we actually provide downloads of these, a link to the downloads. And I certainly, in a perfect world, we would all get together in one pool and spend, an hour or 2 hours on each stroke. And I think we just need to figure out what the right balance is to that, and hope that we can make progress. We just want to continue to make progress. So good suggestion.
If I can make one other suggestion just for level 1 officials, I know my very first meet, one of the things that I found probably the most difficult was to fill out a DQ slip correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember in the class actually spending a great deal of time on that, and obviously you don't have an event going on in front of you to make sure that you're filling out the right sections appropriately.
Right.
So that, and the new official that I was speaking with on yesterday at our invitational meet had the exact same comment, that she really didn't know how to fill that slip out correctly. So that might be another place where even an online session like this might be beneficial. Yeah,
that's a great idea too. And we do spend a few minutes on that, but you're right. Until you're in the heat of the battle and you're trying to fill out that form, it's pretty difficult. After you get to be experienced at it, I was just looking for a picture of a DQ slip here, and I don't have one right in front of me here. After you get experienced at it, it actually turns out to be a helpful document. But let's be honest, when you're making that first DQ, it's sort of scary trying to fill that out. And then you have my voice in your ear saying, but my goodness, if we don't fill it out right, the referee's going to overturn it. So it certainly is part of it. But that's a great idea. We can, and I think that's a good segue to the last screen here, is how do we come up with new ways to communicate? And maybe there are some little mini webinars we can do where we can maybe break down the strokes one at a time and go through the stroke videos. That's not out of the question. I think that's actually a pretty good idea. So, if that's an idea that people have, I'm certainly willing and excited to jump into that. So now that we're at that phase, I don't know, you guys tell me what the best way to communicate is. Should we continue these sorts of webinars? Do we create something that's a little simpler? And I can create a Facebook group that we can all belong to. Some people wouldn't go on Facebook if it was, to save their lives. I totally understand that. We certainly can do Twitter. I've done some of that social media stuff, some of it begrudgingly. Or we could just create an email chain or some other kind of forum. Does anybody have an opinion about how to move it on to the next way to communicate?
Tom, I think this was very well done. I appreciate it. I don't know what else you could do. I work with my officials. There's 6 of them that we have. I try to teach them the best way that I can. The only other thing I could think of that we should do is just at least have one meeting a year that we're all together, and then kind of go from there. And just like he said, going over the DQ slips, just because a lot of these people don't get that information. They go to the class, they leave the class, but the other officials may not be helping them or telling them that stuff. And once a year is a good refresher to go over face-to-face as opposed to this. And then if we have to do anything else, do this webcast because it's awesome.
Yeah, so so we'll think through that. I know I have at least our board secretaries listening in here today as well. So as a league, I think we'll get together and communicate with our board people and see if there's any suggestions coming from them as well. Again, I am all in favor of trying new things and even trying things and finding out they don't work. You know, like today was really our first shot at this. We have 14 people here. That's pretty good. We have 20 teams. It'd been nice to have at least 20 people here. So, you know, even this is a work in progress. But what we'll try to do is we'll share this information today. I'm actually recording it. And I want to give you my contact stuff if you can make a note of this, please. And all of you who attended today, I'm not sure whether I have the technology to know who was here. But if you wouldn't mind kicking me an email just so I know you were here, that would be great. And then I'll have your contact information. And if you can do that, then we can at least start some dialogue between ourselves and see if we can't get to the next steps. Also, my phone number's on here. You can send me a text. Any way you want to communicate with us, you know, we're here to help. Again, I'm an officials trainer. Art Bassick is my mentor and my hero, and I'm trying to imitate him or emulate him as best I can and do that even with some sort of modern twists. So we're working well together and trying to make sure we get as much good information into everyone's hands as possible so you can all be great officials. So there's all my stuff. Does anybody have any closing remarks or anything you want to throw in for today? Okay, we'll wrap it up for now then. I appreciate everybody coming. Thanks for being here. Again, good first crack, I hope, and we'll make them better and better as we go. If you have other topics, like we already know that the DQ slip is going to be one that we can go through. That's one we can make happen pretty easily. So that's a great suggestion. And then we'll be thinking about how to look at the strokes and go from there. So look forward to hearing from you. I guess my final word for all of you is remember to work as many meets as you can. That's how you get better at this. And you know, even work meets that aren't your own. I know that's really difficult for all of us, but if you get a chance to work at districts, please take advantage of that opportunity. Working at districts and then working at states, those are really some magnificent meets. And if you're lucky enough to go to nationals, don't run and hide from nationals either. Working at nationals is really quite an experience. And my wife and I both enjoyed that very much. So work the meets, be part of this. So thanks everybody, appreciate it. And I guess we'll see you at the pool. Have a good night.
Thank you.